Michigan doesn't have an inherent advantage in the seltzer game. It's pretty even, but Michigan does have an advantage, rightfully so, in the cider game because we've got an amazing fall that produces fantastic apple product. And so Michigan should be one of the best places for hard cider.
Welcome to your Daily Detroit for Friday, November 20th, 2020. Look, everyone needs some fun. Everyone needs some release. And so today's episode is just that. We are highlighting one of the most requested things that we get, which is to focus on local and Michigan-made brands. Today is a cider tasting. We're calling it the Cider Rumble. I'm excited to share it with you. A quick reminder that this is all possible because of our members at patreon.com/dailydetroit. Your support really does matter and makes all these episodes happen, and thank you very much. All right, I'm just going to jump into it. We are back in the North End backyard of the Daily Detroit studios here in the beautiful city of Detroit. The bonfire is going, and my compadres, engineer Randy Walker and Devon O'Reilly, our man about town, are here. Devon, why are we here today?
Well, Jared, we're here because this is really the perfect time and the perfect place here in the North End in beautiful Detroit to have a cider rumble, to taste some ciders. There's no better time of year for it. It's a beautiful fall evening, and we're aiming to decide who among the cider offerings is the best and the standout.
So once again, we are trying Michigan-made products. We have 8 Michigan-made ciders that we are comparing to a national baseline of Angry Orchard.
So let's describe Angry Orchard as the beginning, and then as we go through, we're going to highlight all of these Michigan ciders, where they're from, their ABV, all of that kind of stuff. And this is a selection of stuff that Shianne pulled off the shelves, what she could readily get a hold of, which I think is key for folks, because if you can't buy it, it's not really worth trying, right?
Cider is a much more well-established category than seltzers, so I know Shianne had a much easier time tracking down these ciders than I did tracking down seltzers.
The other thing to note, too, here is that none of these are free gifts. These have been paid for by our own dollars, and thank you to the supporters at patreon.com/dailydetroit. But this is the only way that we feel like we can do honest reviews like this, is if we pay for it ourselves and not take freebies from the companies.
We want to make sure that if you like the ciders, you can find the ciders. And as you mentioned, Jared, we're going to start off with the gold standard. I remember drinking Angry Orchard in bars years ago. So I think it has to be one of the earliest cider offerings.
All right, so let's talk about Angry Orchard. To me, it's cloyingly sweet. It's kind of like apple juice and booze, and it's not my favorite, I'll be honest with you.
No, this Hudson Valley product, apparently, of New York, is way too sweet for me. And I'm going to go ahead and say early on, I'm a fan of a drier cider. I want it to taste a little bit more like a beer, less like a sweet kind of carbonated apple juice. And really, carbonated apple juice is what I'm getting, not only with the smell, but with the taste, with the coloration. Carbonated apple juice is the best way I can describe this.
I think the sweetness covers up the 5% ABV on this, because I don't really taste much as far as alcohol goes in this.
The reason I would stop drinking Angry Orchards is not because I got drunk. It would be because they would get too sweet, and I just would not want to have another one of these.
So we have our baseline. We will put it in the middle. What we're going to do is a rank order as we try these. Is it better or worse than the ones before it? Now, this may or may not be the fairest way to do this, but it's the way that we found that works.
So our first competitor is Tandem Ciders. We have their Smackintosh. Tandem is located in Suttons Bay, and this is a 4.5 ABV cider.
Great name. Love the Smackintosh. Good branding. I like what they're doing, at least from a marketing standpoint.
Can is pretty.
This is interesting. A lot less of the sweetness. I don't get apple juice as much.
So to me, just smelling it and not even tasting it, it smells earthy, kind of like mushroom.
I would agree. A more earthy flavor. It's a little less on the yellow side, and the carbonation is a little more, the bubbles are very small, more champagne-y in terms of the bubbles here, the carbonation.
I feel like they're sharper bubbles.
I would say the bubbles are a little sharper. I'm not sure about the taste. I don't know how to exactly put my finger on it. I don't really like the taste.
If you told me this was apple and I didn't know any better, I'd say you were lying.
And it seems that they're a Macintosh blend apple, so maybe...
Devon, I'm going to say that that's the Macintosh, because each kind of apple has a very different kind of taste. And if this is in fact Macintosh apples, then I feel like that's what's speaking here. Personally, and let's kick off the voting round, I actually do like it more than Angry Orchard.
I do prefer the tartness of this one over the sweetness of the Angry Orchard, so I'm going to rank this one better than Angry Orchard.
I'm going to concur. I do like the tart over the sweet, and so I will put it over the Angry Orchard, but I have to say, I'm a little concerned for its chances going forward.
It's like sour mushrooms. It's so weird.
I was a little concerned, like maybe they'll all just taste the same. Clearly, there's a wide variety of cider taste. There's a wide spectrum of the cider taste palette. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see now what else you can pull from this cider spectrum.
Michigan cider number 2 is Starcut Ciders, made by Shorts in Bel Air. And the particular cider we're trying is their Octo Rock Hard Cider at 4.9% ABV.
This is already different on the nose.
Not as strong.
I don't smell apple. I don't smell earthiness. I smell alcohol fermentation.
It's a darker color. It's definitely a darker golden color. Carbonation is, I think, pretty medium, but more of a champagne-y, smaller bubbles, sharper, smaller bubbles. Not as sweet. It kind of tastes like a champagne.
I get some champagne notes. I also get some sort of residual flavors after I swallow that remind me of a biting into an unripe apple, like that very green astringency.
Not very sweet on the finish compared to other ciders.
I'm going to go ahead and say that I like the Space Turtle.
I would agree. I think right now where we're at, I'd put this one ahead of the pack.
And I also like the design as well. I'm a fan of it.
Points for the trippy Space Turtle.
All right, so let's do the ranking. Randy, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, this goes to the front of the line for me.
We'll put this ahead of Smackintosh.
Ditto.
Okay, we have Uncle John's Hard Cider from St. John's, Michigan. This is our only flavored cider. Availability was limited on this one, so we have a cranberry apple seasonal cider. So we're going to look for that cranberry flavor in this as well. It's
got a very hard seltzery kind of design to the can right off the bat.
The color already is pouring like a rubyish.
Yeah, it's a gentle rose pink color from the cranberries, I would more than assume.
Ooh, the tartness of the cranberry really cuts through that apple. You definitely taste the cranberry there.
I don't hate it.
The smell is a little strange. It doesn't really taste the same way that it smells. The smell is a little off-putting, but the taste is good.
Yeah, there's a disconnect there.
Off-putting is an understatement. This smell reminds me of a bad men's room.
So this is only available September through February. Which is interesting. I do know that Uncle John's Hard Cider, I've had it before. They've had it at local bars, have it on tap. I think several of them actually. So it's a pretty well-known product, and it's a pretty decent kind of middle of the road offering. I think that I do like this. It's a nice change of pace. Again, I don't know how many of these I'd want to drink.
Same.
It's a stronger ABV. It's a 6.5%, so it does pack a little bit more punch as well.
Yeah, I definitely feel and taste the alcohol in this one, and the smell is very misleading because I love the taste of this cider. The cranberry is subtle enough that it just kind of amps up the tartness of the apple. So I am going to rank this as the new number 1 in my opinion. So I think this is better than Octo Rock.
You know, I would slightly disagree. I'd personally put it below Octo Rock. So we're gonna have a tiebreaker. I'm
gonna put it below Octo Rock.
Yeah. So I mean, it does make sense to point out this is a specialty flavor of the Uncle John's. The normal Uncle John's offering is really good on its own. You can get it at a lot of local bars around here in Detroit.
Our next pour is Puck's Cider from Conklin, Michigan. This is in a lovely shade of blue on the can with a little fairy on the front. So I'm assuming that's maybe Puck from A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Although pretty, I'm not sure I understand the blue can for cider, but I'm willing to be open to it.
This is the most intriguing cider to me so far for a few reasons. One, I've never heard of this. I've never heard of Puck's. I don't believe it's a brewery. I don't know where Conklin, Michigan is. This one is really beguiling for me. It also, I believe, is the strongest from an ABV perspective. It's 6.9, so we're in like two-hearted territory from an alcohol percentage. So this is a kick in the pants. We'll find out if the taste matches the ABV, if you can taste it in there.
This particular cider is called the Orchard Brut. It is a dry cider on a scale of 1 to 6 that they have printed on the can. It is in the number 1 level, where 1 is dry and 6 is sweet. So this sounds like it will be Devon's.
So again, I'm very excited. Can't wait to try this one because everything I'm hearing about this sounds up my alley.
It's almost transparent. It looks like champagne.
I think it's the easiest drinking cider that I've had so far because there's not really a biting sweetness on it. There's not a ton of flavor, and for me, I say that kind of in a good way. Some people might say it's a little watery, but I actually like that it's not super high carbonated and that it's not super sweet.
I taste the alcohol, and that's about it. It's very mild. The aroma is very apple blossom and not necessarily apple fruit.
Is it less carbonated than you expected? I expected like a really high carbonation, like a champagne, and I'm not getting that.
Yeah, with something called brut, I know that's dryness, but it gives the perception of champagne-ish, so I would have expected smaller and more bubbles than what we're getting here.
Yeah, it's got that champagne kind of feel without as much bubbliness. Like, to describe it in a neutral kind of way. Like, it's got that champagne mouthfeel with less bubbly.
And this goes back to what we talked about with the ciders. It's all about what you want to taste, what your flavor palette is, what you really enjoy. This is certainly dry. So if you like a dry cider, there's no doubt that this is nothing really sweet about this cider. So whether that's good or bad for you, that's up to you to decide. But this is certainly the driest cider we've tasted.
Where does it go, guys? I'm not even sure because, like, I don't feel cidery.
I liked this cider the most, but in a cider tasting competition, I would put it below the Octo Rock. I wouldn't put it at the best because it still doesn't taste like a true cider.
I think we might have to do more detailed voting on this one because I would put this under Angry Orchard just for not being very apple-y or cidery at all.
It doesn't meet the criteria.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so I am a little biased. Again, I said right off the bat that I liked the dryness, so I'm going to be more biased to something that's more dry.
And the dryness doesn't bother me. It's just I don't taste apples. It barely smells like apples. It barely tastes like anything. So that's why I'm putting it so low on our scale.
But so here's my thing. I enjoy this more than Angry Orchard, right? Like, regardless of what you're saying.
You're at a bar and they're like, we have these two. Which of these two are you ordering?
I think I would order the Angry Orchard over this.
See, I wouldn't. So I feel like we've got to negotiate here. So far we've got a bottom. I've got a +1, or actually +2. I put it into the second slot. And you would put it near the top.
Correct.
I think we have enough votes here with three of us that it goes over the Angry Orchard. I think that's pretty clear here.
I'll agree with that. Based on, what you had recommended as your ranking, I would say averaging all of our rankings, it would probably go between the Uncle John's and the Smackintosh.
Yeah, I can rest easy knowing that it's above the Angry Orchard because I still think it's just a much better overall product.
See, so that's the thing, is does it really go over the Uncle John's then?
Again, I'm biased. I would vote yes. I understand where people are voting other ways. So as long as it's on the right side of the Angry Orchard, I'm not going to complain.
All right, so we take it over Smackintosh and below the Uncle John's?
That's what I think. And you said you wanted it a little higher, but with my extreme negativity, I think bringing it up that high is balancing out all our votes.
Yeah, because I just want it above Angry Orchard. That's as far as I feel.
This is a lot more contentious than the fizz fight with the seltzers. There seems to be a lot less consensus here.
Well, that's the thing. I think these are different products. I think the seltzer, everyone's trying to be a variation of White Claw, except for the couple near the top that really stood out on their own. With this one, I mean, this is all over the road.
Fair point, Jared. Cider really does give you an opportunity to go in all sorts of different directions, from a flavor profile, from an alcohol content, all sorts of things. So you are going to get a much wider variety. I'll give you that.
All right, so we're on the back half here. Randy, what do we got?
Next, we have our Virtue Cider. Virtue is based in Fanville, and this is just called Michigan Apple. It's a proper farmhouse cider at 5.5% ABV.
Different nose profile.
Yeah, this one smells faintly of apple and a little hint of fermentation at the back.
I get a lot of apple here. It smells like I'm going to taste a real appley cider.
It's appley.
I like this one, and I would say that it's not super sweet, but you get the apple taste. You know you're drinking a cider, but it's not as sweet as some of the other options that we've had, but it does have a very true, authentic, I would say, apple taste.
Where we earlier described Angry Orchard as apple juice with alcohol, I would say this is a little bit more alcohol with some apple juice. Like, it's not overly sweet. You definitely get the apple, and you definitely get the alcohol from it. It also has much bigger bubbles, so I would say less carbonated. It doesn't have that fizzy feel in your mouth so much.
Yeah, it doesn't feel too carbonated. It's a medium ABV, 5.5%, so I would say that they print right here on the can, proper farmhouse cider. That's exactly what I'm getting by drinking this. So kudos to Virtue. They definitely described their cider correctly here on the can.
Okay, so what sets this apart, though, from the Angry Orchard for you? Because I pick up some of the same notes, but I'm not as annoyed by it.
Oh, for sure. I think it goes back to some of the things that I'm looking for. It's less sweet. It's more crisp apple cider, less carbonation, and it just overall is a more pleasant mouthfeel and pleasant experience drinking it. And the smell is really nice. It matches the taste of it.
I think I'm actually going to finish my sampling of this because, we're doing a tasting. I actually think I'm going to be a member of the Clean Cup Club.
Oh, shoot. I've been finishing them all.
Randy. All right. It's a moment of truth. Where do we put this? I'm going to start with you, Randy.
Definitely above Angry Orchard. And I would say also definitely above Smackintosh. And I like it more than the Pucks as well. So I would say between Pucks and Uncle John's.
This is my favorite cider so far. I would put it at the top of the pile. It is clearly a proper farmhouse cider. It's exactly as advertised, and it really strikes me as the best embodiment of a hard cider.
Devon, I'm going to agree with you. I want to put it in the number 1 or number 2 slot here. I'm going to fight for that because it is a solid thing that I would enjoy drinking. That's the other thing, is that I would enjoy drinking this if I pick it up and I go, that's a cider. So really, where does this settle in all of our minds here?
I would be okay with this at number 2 for sure, but I still think the Octorock edges it out slightly.
Are you willing to compromise for number 2?
I think we can give it 2. Authentic farmhouse cider exactly fits it, so I'm okay with it being number 2 as long as the people know if this is what they're looking for, that taste profile.
Yes, if you're looking for authentic farmhouse, unadulterated, this is it. But number 2, it will go after a consensus vote. I feel like we're going to get some tweets and emails about somebody being the French or Russian judge. But yeah, here we go. So let's give people a recap because we're now in the back stretch here of what we have going on. So at the bottom is the mainstream entrant, the Angry Orchard. Then we have the Smackintosh, the Pucks, the Uncle John Hard Cider, Cranberry Apple, the Virtue Cider, and at the top, the Trippy Turtle of Octorock.
It's kind of impressive that we so far have not agreed on something that we think is worse than the Angry Orchard.
I would note here that this is very different than the Fizz fight where the White Claw ended up being literally smack in the middle, where I feel like lots of people were aiming for White Claw, whereas this is, it's a different story.
You know what it shows you, I think, though, is that Michigan doesn't have an inherent advantage in the seltzer game. It's pretty even, but Michigan does have an advantage, rightfully so, in the cider game because we've got an amazing fall that produces fantastic apple product. And so Michigan should be one of the best places for hard cider. The worst you can say is the Angry Orchard is just super sweet, bubbly, not great, but it's not like I need to hold my nose to drink it.
Next up, we have Vandermill Hard Apple. I am quite fond of this can.
I am too, Randy. Like, I'm on board. What do you think?
I'm still trying to make it out. So you've got various layers of color here. I see apples. The Vandermill logo seems to be in the shape of an apple. So I do appreciate it. It's a little bit of an artistic take on a cider can. This is a high ABV too. I'm looking at the can. 6.5 or 6.8?
6.8.
6.8. Okay. So again, that's a pretty that's way up there. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I've tasted this before. I want to see if it says Macintosh on there because I'm getting the same type of earthiness that we got from the cider that had Macintosh, the Smackintosh.
We have a unique blend of apples for the foundation.
Macintosh feels like it's in here.
It's that I feel like I taste the same earthiness with the Smackintosh,
which I'm not against, but it's a definite uniqueness.
I'm not against, but I don't look for it.
It has that flavor I described earlier as mushroomy.
It's got to be a calling card of the Macintosh. So we've learned something now. If you're someone in search of ciders and you see one that is made with Macintosh apples, it's going to have a really earthy flavor to it, less so than a sweet, crisp apple. So again, if that's what you're looking for, go with the Macintosh products.
See, and it's one of the things I really like about how we're trying to handle this tasting. It's not about this thing is terrible or whatever. It's about trying to triangulate what gives you joy when it comes to cider, when it gives to enjoying local products. And that joy, I think, is important, and we all need a little bit of joy right now.
I agree we need joy. I just don't think this cider provides it. I don't taste anything that says this is an apple-based beverage.
And the can had so much promise.
I was really looking for more apple out of that can. Okay, so let's talk about where this goes. Would you order this over the Angry Orchard?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's settled. Let's move up to the Smackintosh, which is basically feeling like its brother in arms.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and say I put this below the Smackintosh, only just slightly. I like the can of Smackintosh. I like they give it right up front. It's a Smackintosh. This is a Macintosh apple. We had to search for this. It seems like they say it's a blend. We all know there's Macintosh in there now.
Yeah, I'm going to say between Angry Orchard and Smackintosh as well. It has some of the similar flavor and aroma notes as the Smackintosh, but just not as much of it. So that's why I think Smackintosh has the slight edge over the Vandermill.
And see, for me, it doesn't give me emotion. It doesn't make me want to fall in love with it or have a lustful evening with it. I'm going to agree with you guys. So let's just put it there. So our final two are going to be some names you probably know. This next one is very well known. If you have drank a cider in Michigan, you have probably encountered this before. This is the Blake's Hard Cider Flannel Mouth Classic. It's a 6.5 ABV, so it's a little bit on the upper side for this stuff, but this is among the most well-known flavors in Michigan.
Yeah, also, we get finally to this side of the state.
Big bubbles.
A lot of foam on
Big
here.
bubbles.
A lot of foam on this one.
It's a beery foam.
Yeah, it is. And it definitely smells like cooked apples.
Oh, yeah. That's what that is. Yep.
This tastes very distinct from the other ones. It's a pretty high carbonation. Not really sweet, but definitely on the sweeter side.
This is definitely above the midline between dry and sweet, tending towards sweet, but I wouldn't call it sweet. I would also say that this color is probably the palest except for the pucks.
I get why this is a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, I think it's a very, I would say middle of the road, but not trying to judge it too early, but I will say it doesn't strike me as any standout features of this cider. I would say that it's nice. It says here, Flannelmouth Classic. I think it's a classic cider. It also indicates on the can that it's right there in the middle between dry and sweet, a little bit on the sweet side. So it kind of is what it is. Blake's, as we know, has multiple offerings of cider. And so this is just kind of their middle of the road original offering. But I would also, encourage people to explore the Blake's profile because they have all sorts of different takes on ciders. It's a worthy contender, but I certainly wouldn't say that I prefer this better than some of the others that I've tried.
I do not dislike it. Like, I would drink this and enjoy it, but I can't see it being up there in the number one spot, to be honest with you.
No, I would agree. I wouldn't say putting it in the number one spot. This is the best option for this type of event. But I would encourage people to do is to really seek out more Blake's flavors because, as we said, they do certain things a little bit better, more unique types of flavors. So look for those. This, maybe not so much.
All right. Well, where does it come down to? Obviously, I think we're all in agreement it's over Angry Orchard.
So I didn't hate this one, and I like the flavor better than any of the Macintosh offerings. So I would probably put it above Smackintosh.
Okay, that would put it in the 5 spot right now. Randy.
I definitely agree it's better than Smackintosh, but I was also not a fan of the next one on the list, Pucks, so I would put it above Pucks as well.
See, I would put it in 3 spot. For me, it's a solid 3 spot. It's better than the Pucks.
I'm okay putting it higher. As we know, Pucks is the one that I actually liked a lot, but it also fits the cider profile the least.
Do you like this or the Pucks more?
I could drink more of the Pucks, but I can put this ahead of Pucks.
Yeah, my vote was definitely ahead of Pucks. I don't think it's better than the Uncle John's Cranberry Apple, but I'm willing to negotiate on that too.
I'm willing to compromise. Why don't we put it above the Pucks and below the Uncle John's? So we have one more to go.
So we have the Motor City Brewing Works Hard Cider. This is in a 1 liter can. This also is available in retail packaging. We just weren't able to procure it in time for the event. So we did get this directly from Motor City Brewing Works, but you can find it in bottles in stores.
Okay.
So that's why it's included in our list, is because it does have that commercial availability.
Well, we got to have that Detroit entrant. There's a couple other people who've made ciders, but this is available. This has more of the bubbly profile of the Blake's. That's got more of like the floofy.
It smells boozy to me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's 6.3.
6.3. I believe the retail offerings are only 5.6. So this is a little stronger than what you would get if you got it at a store instead of from the brewery. This stinks. I don't want to smell this anymore. Like, this is even worse than the one I described as smelling like a men's room.
Randy's making a
I
face.
feel like this cider tastes like it was made. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but it tastes like it was made in someone's backyard. It's a real gritty, homegrown cider type of flavor to it.
Ooh, Randy. So let's be clear here. Randy is not a fan.
Not at all. I can't do this.
I still like it better than Angry Orchard.
I don't hate this. I'll be clear. I don't hate this. I do appreciate the grittiness of it. It's not super sweet. I don't know what I'd call that flavor on it, that initial first taste.
This is very beer-like, and I'm not a huge beer drinker, so that's probably my aversion to it.
That makes a ton of sense because this feels like beer.
It definitely feels and drinks like a beer.
All right, where do we put it? Randy, I think, would want to put it in the trash can.
Yeah, this is at the bottom of the list for me. I would drink Angry Orchard over this any day.
I personally would go ahead and put this just above Smackintosh, below the Pucks.
See, it's tough for me because I feel like I'm kind of in between the two of you. I enjoyed the Macintosh dryness, and I enjoyed what it is for what it was. And that's why, as much as I adore Motor City Brewworks, I can't put that much higher than just above Angry Orchard.
If you can put it above Angry Orchard, I'm fine with it.
I'll go with that. Like one above Angry Orchard is fine for me.
This is heartbreaking. I love Motor City Brewworks, so this one is heartbreaking.
I wonder if we would have better experience with the actual retail version instead of the direct from the brewery version.
All right, let's talk about what we've done. The final is here. We know what we've got. We have tried a variety of ciders this evening, all Michigan-based, except for our Angry Orchard. Angry Orchard is in the lowest position. So let's be honest here. Everything here is better than an Angry Orchard.
Any Michigan cider beats an Angry Orchard cider. So Michigan over New York.
By consensus, that's true. I would disagree with specifics on a few of those, but I'm willing to admit that in general, yes, Michigan ciders seem to be better than commercially, nationally available ciders.
All right, let's work our way up. So Angry Orchard's at the bottom, and then we have the Motor City Brewworks Hard Cider.
In seventh place, we have Hard Apple from Vandermill of Grand Rapids. In number 6 place, just above it, we have Smackintosh from Tandem Ciders in Suttons Bay, Michigan. Number 5 was probably the most contentious pick on our entire list. We have the Orchard Brute from Puck Cider out of Conklin, Michigan. And kind of also right there in the middle of the pack, in 4th place, we have Flannel Mouth from Blake's up in Armada, Michigan.
Uncle John's rounds us out at number 3, and that is out of St. John's, Michigan. And by the way, I'll notice here that this is their apple cranberry, not their flagship. That's what we could get a hold of.
And again, this was our only flavored cider that had things in addition to apples in it. So it was the apple cranberry.
And in number 2, the runner-up place, we had Virtue Cider from Fanville, Michigan, which was a cider we all really enjoyed. It's a true proper farmhouse cider. And the winner of the Cider Rumble was Starcut Ciders from Bel Air, Michigan, their Octo Rock, which also had a really cool can.
Yeah, I was surprised to see who came out on top of this one. What did we learn tonight?
Any Michigan cider beats a mass-produced national cider.
We learned that Randy doesn't hate cider as much as he thought he did.
We learned that Macintosh apples make a cider taste entirely different.
I think those are all great lessons. Engineer Randy Walker, Man About Town, Devon O'Reilly, thank you so much for joining me in this little journey.
Thanks so much. I would want to make a quick aside since we're doing this in the middle of fall, in cider season, in COVID times. What's so great about having the cider is you find yourself a backyard, you find yourself a 6, a 12 pack, whatever pack of how many you need for yourself or your friends. You grab some donuts and you've got everything that a cider mill can offer with more booze. So there's one silver lining of the COVID times is skip the crowds, grab yourself some Michigan-made hard ciders, and have a good time in your backyard.
Yeah, light up a bonfire, grab 1 or 2 of these to try, and let us know which one you think is your favorite. So email us at dailydetroit@gmail.com and let us know what you think.
With that, I'm Jer Stays. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for coming to my backyard. I also want to give a quick shout out before I let you go to Shianne Nocerini, our associate producer, who helped make all of these things happen, running around town, picking these up for us. And with that, take care of each other, and I'll see you around Detroit.